Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Ainam. The title of this video is, I'm going to change it to The National Security Strategy is a Cry for Help. And basically, it's some type of document, that America has put forth to the world, and the title, like I said, is basically a cry for help. They're trying to heal their wound and cure their bruise, because they're the end. So this is Nahum 3. I get to 19. It says, Nahum 3:19, there is no healing of thy bruise, thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruise, these shall clap their hands over thee, for upon whom have not thy wickedness passed continually. Right? And the nations, are seeing that. They're seeing the wickedness of Babylon the Great. America in these last days is, coming down with great wrath, moving like they own and run the world, which they did, right? Job 9:24 says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And that, the earth has been given to them, but they're at the end now, where Joel 3 says, let the weak say that they are strong. All the nations, right, are rising up against America, and all they're doing and everything they're doing now is basically trying to heal themselves, right? Joel 3:9, it says, proclaim this among the Gentiles, prepare war, and war is coming. Right, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. Right, so for a long time now, America has ruled the world with an iron fist. Here in these last days, as you can see, people are bucking up against America and what they're doing. Jeremiah 51 and 7, it says, Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, right, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad, right? Because it was all lies, right? Basically, the things that America has pushed forth, the policies, their plans. You have different, agreements that America has, signed into effect that they themselves have not, basically kept these different agreements, right? Uh, you know, So it says, verse 8, Babylon has suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. It says, we will have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her. And let us go everyone into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. And pretty much the whole world is forsaking Babylon. And we can see these NATO and EU nations who thought that America was their ally. And for a while, America was their ally. But pursuant to prophecy, basically these nations are turning on America, but that's because America basically is turning on them, telling them what to do and how they should operate, and basically not helping them in their time of need, as we see things play out here on the grand stage in the world now. All right. Let me get Psalm 55. It says Psalm 55 and 20, it says, he hath put forth his sentence against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. And so that's what's happening now. So we're seeing a small part of why the nations are going to be upset with Babylon. Basically everything they're doing regarding the tariffs, right? Regarding the budget spending and all that, the nations are upset about that. Psalm 65 and 20 says, he hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. Like I mentioned, a lot of these agreements and things that he did, he's reneging on it, right? He's turning back. And even this NATO EU thing, he threatened to leave NATO. He's threatening not to help NATO with the Russia situation, right? Because it came out that their plans were to use Ukraine to weaken Russia, but his background is not working. And, the scriptures say that the king of Babylon have heard the report of him, and his hands wax feeble. Regarding in this case Russia, right? Their agenda and their plan was to use Ukraine to weaken Russia, but Russia is not weakening. Russia is stronger. That's also pursuant to prophecy, where in Ezekiel 38, Yahweh said that he would turn Russia back, right, and basically make them strong, and that's exactly what has happened. So let me grab this. The king of Babylon, I've heard the report. Bear with me. All right, so that's Jeremiah 50. I'll grab it real quick. Because even the Venezuela situation, we'll see what happens with that because Russia and China is over there too. All right. And he's already trying to run away from Ukraine because of Russia. Right. All the peace plans that's coming out, the peace plans are Russia's plans. Russia say, yo, this is what we want. And the Babylon, America's like, okay, cool. And then he gives it to the NATO, and NATO's like, hell no. So they're at odds. All right, Jeremiah 43 and Jeremiah 50 and 43. As a matter of fact, all right, Jeremiah 50 and 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north. This is talking about Russia. And a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth, right? And Russia is going to be joined with many allies, even NATO and EU. It says, they shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon, right? And ultimately, it will be the missiles shot by Russia and Russia's allies. It says, the king of Babylon have heard the report. Y'all, no king's event, no king's protest, right? The king of Babylon have heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him in pangs as a woman in travail. So America does not want anything to do with Russia, right? And he said, the king of Babylon has heard reports about the enemy, and he is weak with fright. Pangs of anguish have gripped him like those of a woman in labor. Okay. So ultimately, America is turning on its allies to, basically run away, trying to help themselves now, trying to heal themselves because they're failing. They say China is better than us, Russia is better than us. We're buying oil from Venezuela. Trump said if he was in office, that would never happen. So America itself has become weak. All right, so this is Revelation 17 and 16. It says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So these 10 horns are joined to the whore, which is America, to make up this beast system, right? But the 10 horns are going to hate the whore in these last days. And it says, and shall make her desolate and naked. Why? Because they're going to join Russia to burn her with fire, which will be the nuclear missiles. It says, for Yahweh have put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree to give their kingdom unto the beast. So ultimately, it was hand in hand with America. It says, until the words of Yahweh Bashmi shall be fulfilled. So they were only set for appointed time, right, to be with America. And now we're at the end now where it's over with. Job 14 and 5, it says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. All right. Turn from him that he may rest till he shall accomplish as an hireling his day. And ultimately he has done that. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So what comes next is, basically war, right? Of course, we have the MOTB, which is looking like 2026 will be the year where they really push for it heavy, right? So, the time is near. So let me grab this Obadiah, or I'll probably save it towards the end. So here's a little bit of her right here.
Just start with the language here because it actually says.
All right, so of course she's going to that, the bill that the Trump put forth, the strategy plan or something.
Into it. Let's just start with the language here because it actually says a lot. In this shiny new US national security document, the word ally pops up exactly once when it comes to Canada, and honestly, it's not even a compliment. The message, if you squint past the diplomatic polish, is actually pretty simple. Alliances are not about trust or shared values or any of that warm, fuzzy stuff. It's actually just about usefulness, quite transactional, right? Basically, if you're on America's list, your job is to help keep the machine running. No debates, no questions, just here's what we need, make it happen. And if you're not on that list, well, you've been upgraded or maybe downgraded to either a problem or a threat. What really stands out is just how direct all of this is. There's not even a hint of subtlety. They literally write, we must encourage Europe, Japan, Korea, Australia, Canada, Mexico, but not to work together or build something new No, no, no. The whole point is to adopt trade policies that hit China where it hurts. There's actually something almost weirdly honest about it. I mean, most empires throughout history at least pretend to care about their friends. They send fruit baskets, they host summits, they do the song and dance, but here, the mask is completely off. Canada gets a passing mention, but only as an extra set of hands in America's campaign to keep China in check, as if honestly is the kind of approach that punishes both emotional thinking and apathy. If you treat your partners like tools, eventually they're just going to figure it all out. And when that happens, just don't be surprised if they start quietly looking for the exit. Now, just to compare with how other big players do this, China, they love to throw around phrases like win win partnerships, like everyone's going to walk away happy and richer. Russia, it's all about brotherhood and shared destiny. Sure, a lot of that is just for show and everyone knows it, but at least the tone is different, right? America has completely dropped the act. For people on the receiving end, especially in places like Canada and Europe, the message is super loud and clear. You're here to serve, not to steer. I always think that a good critical thinker doesn't just ask what happened, but who benefits from you reacting a certain way. There's a reason here that the language is so sharp, my friends. Now, here's where things really start to feel theatrical, in my opinion, like we're watching some kind of blame game unfold in slow motion. According to this document, if a country managed to succeed outside the official American playbook, well, the only possible explanation is that they must have cheated. China's huge economic leap, definitely cheating. German companies setting up shop in China, dangerous and suspicious. And when it comes to Europe's economic struggles, apparently it's not about global shifts or competition. No, it's those pesky regulations that, in other words, stifle creativity. It actually gets a bit surreal if you stop and think about it. The US points fingers at Europe for losing its share of global GDP, but you'll notice there is no mention of America's own drop from about 40% in the 1960s to just last quarter to date. When America loses ground, it's the result of sabotage. When Europe does, it's all their own fault. The double standard here, my friends, it's almost impressive in how blatant it is, even for geopolitics. And then there's the chapter on China. Honestly, it reads more like a laundry list of grievances. China is unbalanced, China is cheating, and apparently China needs to be rebalanced, but not through negotiation or competition, just through sheer force. There's even a whiff of moral outrage. How dare they lift a billion people out of poverty and then try to sell affordable products to other poor countries? The nerve, right? It would almost be funny if it weren't so serious. Now, just to compare that with the rest of the global heavyweights, you zoom out and you see this exact same move all over the place. Russia, anytime they hit a rough patch, it's always blamed on Western sabotage. China, the standard line is that America is just trying to contain them, hold them back, keep them boxed in. I mean, now basically America just confessed to that now. There always has to be an enemy at the gate, right? But what's kind of unique about America's approach this time is just how certain all of it sounds. It's not just about protecting interest, it's about defending their destiny. It's one of those moments where if you want to see clearly, you have to be able to hold two conflicting ideas at once. Yes, every superpower runs this playbook, but some versions are a lot more self serving and a lot more out in the open than others. Next, here is where things get a little bit closer to home, not just for Canadians or Europeans, but honestly, for just anyone outside of Washington, basically. America's grand strategy is not just about tanks, flags, or treaties anymore. It's more about who controls the supply chains, who gets the rare earth minerals, who owns the trade routes, and bizarrely, who gets blamed for the narcotics. If your country happens to have something the US wants, minerals, oil, even just a port in the right place, congratulations, you're in the crosshairs. There's this one line in the document that really stuck. The United States must protect and defend our economy and our people from harm from any country or source. Fair enough. On the surface, it sounds pretty reasonable. Of course, a country wants to look after itself, right? But when you step back and realize what that actually means in practice, any country that even slightly threatens America's economic interest is just fair game, an ant on the road. And if you look at how broad their interests are, that could basically end up being just about everyone. For Canada, that's not.
All right, so you can check the video out. A lot of people are upset about this thing right here. This is Psalms 10 and 5. It says, let me just Psalms 10 and 4. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after God, Yahweh Bashmi Shai. Yahweh Bashmi Shai is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for his enemies, he puffeth at them. Right, and the judgment is the end. the judgment is that the Most High Yahweh Bashar is done with this place, right? And it is about to destroy it. Um, yeah, so 50, 51 is good prophecies against Babylon. Just trying to look for a good scripture here. Looking for the shaking of the hand of the Lord, I believe somewhere down here at the end. All right, bear with me. All right, so this is pretty good. I'll get started from verse 14. This is Isaiah 19:14. It says, "The Lord Yahweh Bashar Shai have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggering his vomit." And pretty much that's what I was going to go into, the fact that America has put forth this documentation. It's not really good. It is a threat. It's a threat to even their allies, and it doesn't sit right with their allies. It says, "Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. In that day shall Egypt be like unto women, and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord Yahweh, Bashmiel shall host, which he shaketh over it." And ultimately, this is talking about the destruction of Babylon, right? The Lord purpose, the thing that he had proposed against Babylon, right? Okay. Jeremiah 49:20 says, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel Shai that ye have taken against Edom, and his purposes that he have proposed against the inhabitants of Teman." Well, it says, "Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely shall make the habitation desolate with them." And ultimately, America is moving how they're moving because Israel, right? Israel is behind the scenes, pulling the strings, basically making them protect Israel. Their different decrees that are going out ultimately is protecting Israel's interests, right? Not America's interests. That's why you have a situation in Ukraine, and all of that brought forth. So like, that's not what I was looking for, but you know, this is what the Most High Yahweh Bashmiach has proposed against Babylon. Basically, destruction. All right, let me grab Job 18. All right, Job 18:5, it says, "Yet the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straitened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. For he is set into a net by his own feet, and he walketh upon the snare." So this is just another example of that regarding this, new documentation they put out. Like I stated, there's been multiple videos coming out about it, and everyone is upset about it. The people, so how much more the actual rulers are also looking at this and taking it as a threat. And ultimately, his allies are going to turn on him. I got this Obadiah 1:7 because of this thing. This is, just another example of that. NOT, Obadiah 1:7 says, "All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you and you won't even know about it. So, this is another, like I said, another way and reason why that his allies are going to turn him, because ultimately we see that he's, forcing them to do the things that he wants. He's puffing at them. He's breaking covenants. He's telling them what to do. And ultimately, of course, Yahweh Bashmal Shai is turning the switch off on Esau, right? He's no longer able to rule and operate how he once did, because he's at his end. Okay, so pretty much that's all I had on this. Lord willing, will edify from the lesson. Shalom to the elect, which consists of men, women, children. Shalom.